Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
I'm Master of Magnetism.
Nope, he's got it. Master of Magnetism.
I already said that. You kind of slid in there.
There we go. Yep. You just get in that zone and everything.
Couldn't be Sugar Bear again. Couldn't be Sugar Bear again.
Couldn't
Ruined
be Sugar
it
Bear.
last week.
All right. So Alliance
Assemble.
Assemble.
Oh my gosh. Good start.
It's been a week, ladies and gentlemen, for all three of us with work. Either sleep deprived, hard stuff going on at work, and then Travis has got some sick family members.
Yeah, it sucks.
But we are here because we do this for you, the people.
That's true, but I'm also here to talk X-Men.
That's true too. So besides the how tired and exhausted we all are, how positives, gentlemen, positives.
This week was like the calm between the storms, if you will. There was some storm last week. There's some storm next week, and then things will then there might be a light at the end of the tunnel. We'll find out. So no, it was a good week. It was extraordinarily busy, but it was both in the real job. Some podcast stuff, obviously, because I'm sure you'll mention it, recorded on Monday as well this week, and then this other gig that I've kind of taken over as well, just popped off this week pretty crazy for me in the evening. So it's been a busy one, but it was a good week. What about you, Travis?
Busy week. I can't wait. This is a long weekend for us here. I have Monday off, so that'll be nice. But we were planning to go to the in-laws. It's a 5-hour drive. That's not happening now because, like Chris alluded to, the house is full of 6 people minus me. So I'm glad because I would have had to record DC Alliance early tonight instead. So I would not have wanted to do back-to-back. That would have been rough. So it worked out for old Travis. But let's just be happy that Allison doesn't listen to this podcast or any of the podcasts I do. So she won't hear that I'm happy about how things worked out for me.
I was about to say, yeah, that would have been a little. You would have been a little tired getting onto this one.
Oh, it would have been rough. It would have been rough.
Yeah, so this is the week before exams for my school. It's kind of be weird because my school is the last year they're on year round, and it's weird. We should be ending before the county, but the way the calendar worked out, we are ending like almost a week and a half later. So next week, for everyone else but us, is the last week of school for them. We've got another week and a half after that. So we're getting in all our exams because a lot of times when the county's out, even though we'd say school's still in session for us, our attendance goes down pretty quick. So we got to get those kids taking those scores. So we're all ramping up and hopefully to get some good results. But it's been we're nervous and excited at the same time to see scores. So God willing.
Good grades.
Yeah, good grades. We got this. So anyways, so we've got a big season finale to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. So let us get through all the network plugs. We are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 7 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule below, check out the show notes below. Words are tough tonight. And subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GUA Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we got 2 tiers. We got our $1 tiers, our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon-exclusive shows, including we've got 2 shows for us at Marvel Alliance. We've got We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, 24 lovely, spellbinding, big reviews that Brent and I did covering the Infinity Saga in chronological order, and we are now on our newest show, Tales from the House of X. We are looking at our favorite movies from the Fox era of X-Men. We have covered both Deadpool and Deadpool 2, and as Brent alluded to earlier, we just recorded on Monday night The Wolverine, which will drop when, Brent?
Whatever the last Monday of the month is. I think you told me that was Memorial Day.
Yep, that was Memorial Day. So you can either, if you're needing some stuff while you're grilling out in the Americas at that point, in America, you can do that, or you can wait till Tuesday. It'll be there waiting for you.
I expect you to listen on Monday.
Okay, Brent expects you to listen on Monday. I will give you grace at that point, but Brent will choose violence if you don't.
Good cop, bad cop.
Something like that.
Yeah, we'll do something like that. But DC Alliance, you all have got the DC films through the years. What do you have coming up?
History of Violence is this month.
See, there we go. So Brent will choose violence and then listen to History of Violence. See, there we go.
We'll take some notes out of it and make a history about it.
Synergy right there.
Exactly. And we've got Joe doing his multiverse minutes with his newest show, Disney Dives. He just dropped one today with Bambi. I just listened to it. I do enjoy all the backstories, and there's a lot of interesting stuff. Let's just say that went on behind the scenes of that movie. But yeah, a lot of great stuff. We got a lot of great back content. So we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. We want to thank our newest patron. We got 2 new patrons. We want to thank them, Sam Birchmore and A Fifth of Jack. We want to thank you both for being patrons. We greatly appreciate it. Hope you're enjoying the content that's on there. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, we want to ask you to take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts. We greatly appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. All these lovely collected editions here from Marvel that you can see on screen if you're watching YouTube. But use that code MARVEL, GUA, at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Use it a limited amount of times. And we want to thank them for being an official sponsor. All right. So, X-Men 97 season finale, episode 10, Tolerance is Extinction, part 3. The end of the 3-part season finale has come and gone. Gentlemen, who wants to start with your non-spoiler thoughts? All right, Travis is putting his finger up at that point.
Well, I'll start because I just got to say this show's marvelous. This season finale was very well done. Yes, I couldn't help myself there. The cameos, the Easter eggs, where the potential for next season. One of the things I really love about a good show is when you end a season, there's so many questions that you have about what it could possibly happen, because we've seen them change some things about the comic arcs they have based these story arcs for this season on. So I could see them going in different directions. A lot of speculation, which I love. And the action scenes, the couple we get here, there's nothing like it in any X-Men animated anything that I've ever seen as good as this, where they're using their powers together, how well it looks, the whole thing with Cyclops, Nightcrawler, all that stuff that we'll talk about. Just fantastic. I had to watch it a second time before we came on here. It was that good, the whole episode. And again, it sets up so much, and I have so many questions. And the X-Men king here above us, Chris, I can't wait to ask you a couple when it comes to the end of this episode.
I have thoughts.
I called this episode, I tweeted the other day that this episode was just a triumph. Like, this show, the X-Men 97 is an absolute triumph. It's a banger home run. It's lowest the episodes I would rank the lowest, because we're gonna rank them later. The episodes I would rank the lowest, still I won't call bad episodes, right? Like, they were decent episodes. They just didn't rise to the heights of the rest of the season. And so many of these episodes are great. When I'm trying to rank them, like, I'm not quite sure yet, because some of these I feel like they're so close I could flip them. This season finale, like, I know there's a lot of people who believe the season finales fall off on these shows that Marvel's been putting out from the Disney Plus. Regardless of how you feel about that, this did not do that. It's absolutely nailed it. And I was super happy about it. Do I think it's the best episode of the season? We'll find out at the end. We'll find out where I ranked it. But regardless, I was really happy with how this episode went. It definitely, there was a couple good emotional moments. There were some nice callbacks, including one that I was like, I had to double check. It was a line of dialogue. I'm like, I swear I've heard that character say that line of dialogue before from the original series. I was right. We'll get to that point. But I'm sure you caught it as well, Chris. And Travis, you just watched them all. You probably did too. But regardless, like I said, it's a triumph, an absolute triumph.
It's rare when we put at when we list off the animated shows that mean a lot to us as fans and things like that, the X-Men the animated series is always on people's list. Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Justice League, all Spider-Man the animated series. You get all these at that point, but when this show was announced, nostalgia kicked in and said, yes, we would love a continuation. It's just not just the principle of the show alone. But there's a lot riding on this. There was a lot riding on the idea of what the show could be. Can nostalgia alone really... It only goes so far. We've seen in the movies, like, nostalgia has not been kind to movies at this point. But not only did Bo DeMeo, the writing team, the animators, capture what we all loved about X-Men the animated series, but with the continuation of it with 97, they took it and said, you know what? We're going to up it. We're going to honor what you all as fans. I mean, this is a show for the fans. I mean, anyone can watch it, but you get so much more out of it for watching the entirety of the 5 seasons of it. Like, we get so rewarded by it. And this, I mean, we've said it over and over again. This is the blueprint for what X-Men in the MCU should look to, in the sense of, I don't expect it to be, I don't want it, and I don't need it to be a carbon copy, but this is the type of drama, action, storylines they should look at when trying to figure out, like, how to crack the egg of X-Men to do it right for the MCU. So I echo this season finale. It definitely stuck the landing. Besides my qualms, I do have a few of them at that point. Just because I have critiques and questions at that point doesn't make it a bad episode, because I wouldn't be a fan if I critique because I love and I care about these characters. I care about what this show represents. X-Men was next to Batman was one of the first comic books I ever collected, so I literally have the entire Chris Claremont run and collected edition from beginning to end, because that is how I grew up with X-Men. That's how much these characters mean to me. So and they did such an amazing job with the season finale and the season as a whole. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything more, because I think we want to get into the spoilers, because there's a lot to go into. There's a lot of Easter eggs. There's a lot of hints towards the future. So without much ado, if you have not watched the season finale of X-Men 97, stop now, watch it. Please, just watch it. And then come back over here and listen to it. But we're going to take our first ad break. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so as always, changes in the intro. So the first part we get is Magneto saying, previously on X-Men. We get an added shot in the intro with Magneto and Charles working together in the past. They're in their, kind of doctor suits. And
which was basically a recreation, right?
In an episode before, yeah.
Yeah, this is alluding to their time together as friends from the original series in the episode Enter Magneto, where we see that this scene is pulling from, and also in Uncanny X-Men number 161, where it was revealed that they both were actually old friends, just like we saw in the episode they had discussed about mutant kind and what it means for the future, and also fight off a squad in the comics of Hydra agents that encounter that they encounter, and this also sets Magneto down a path of becoming a villain in the face of human bigotry. So, but yeah, with the way this opens, we open here where they are in a bombed-out German town discussing mutants, and the song "Turn, Turn, Turn" by the Byrds is playing in the background. And I love the song, but the song basically talks about the good and bad events that will happen, but that doesn't mean that we have to be shaped by those events. And the song is actually a clever foreshadowing for the end of the episode. But this is a conversation that Magneto talked about earlier this season on Genosha. He alluded to this conversation when he was talking to the Genosian Council about what he and Charles had thought about the future about the mutants. So what you all think about this conversation they were having?
This whole sequence in their mind, they kept cutting in and out back to it. I enjoyed it overall. At first, the way it went, I thought it was a flashback at first. And I mean, that's what they want you to think. And so I'm just rolling with it. I'm like, okay, we're getting a flashback back to what that sequence was like when we saw it in the opening credits. But, it's not too long before you start to realize, oh, this actually isn't what we think it is. Like, this isn't a flashback. This is happening now.
I enjoyed it because of the tie-in to the X-Men the Animated Series of showing them where they were like kind of just continuing on with that little bit of story that we got before. And you know what? It's nice because it does set up going forward what Magneto's going to have to go through. And he did mention one other time when he was showing up in the last part to tell Charles that you would have loved it, your dream. He mentions that when he shows up to try to recruit X-Men, I think, just for a second. So I do like the couple callbacks throughout this season with this as well. So this is needed, I think.
This whole conversation they both have opposing viewpoints. You talk about Charles believing that they'll be accepted, while Magneto says, if you are a mutant, run and hide before they dream about putting you in camps. This is making allusions to his past of being a Jewish Holocaust survivor. Charles reveals at that point himself to Eric, saying that he can talk to people in their mind, possibly control them, and then Eric says that he can meddle, he can shape it, bend it to his will, which I love how he chooses his words wisely and says he can bend it. There's a lot of real world metaphors in the idea of prejudice Main talk about, but in thinking about this and thinking about what a lot of people use the X-Men to do, it's not just racial. It's also looking at, a lot of allusions to the gay and homosexual experience. I mean, you think about where this is taking place, at least in their mind, by the time period, 1960s, two men in a bar who are afraid to reveal who they are to each other. And Beau DeMayo knew exactly what he was doing here. There's a lot of just there, and it's fine with me. You know what? That's what the X-Men. That's what so many people look to the X-Men for. Is you are ostracized from society for being different.
And there was even it wasn't at the beginning, but while they're in Magneto's mind at this bar, there's even a scene where I know I've seen other people say this as well. I legit thought they were going to kiss. Like it really looked like they were. It looked like they were leaning in and about to go for it. They didn't. Obviously, we watched the episode. We know what happens, but that would have been really interesting to see the reactions to that had they pushed forward with that one.
And again, I do like the relationship here between them. It has been fractured a little bit in the 1.5 episodes that Professor X has been here, or one and a little bit. But I do like they're both going to look out for each other regardless. They're on opposing viewpoints, and it's something that should be, I guess, people should do it more, which is you can be on opposing viewpoints and coexist is a nice thing. It's kind of gotten a little radicalized these days. And Chris, that's the best thing about the X-Men. You can look at it and identify different parts for different. It means a lot to a lot of different people, and that's one, like you said, Beau DeMayo hit on this perfectly.
Yeah. As you said, this is the revelation comes that this is Xavier inside Magneto's mind. When we see the outside turn to water, which in a lot of times water symbolizes emotion and our subconscious. So as restless as angry is a metaphor for Magneto's turmoil he's going through. Xavier realizes that if Magneto doesn't restore the Earth's magnetic power, that he'll force him to do it. Magneto says that doing so will shatter both their minds, and this is clearly possibly setting up for what could be later Onslaught. Because in the comics, when Charles blasts Magneto in X-Men 25, he's able to take control of Magneto's powers and send out a massive magnetic waves to fix the world. In the comics, he just basically blasts him to wipe him of all knowledge of who he is and anything like that. An Onslaught is basically born from that blast because in it, he absorbed all of the pain and misery from Magneto's mind, and in Xavier's subconscious, an evil persona began to develop and then broke through. And when it spiraled out at that point, it wanted basically it becomes like this overpowered juggernaut of a villain, that of a fusion of Xavier and Magneto. Powerful psychic that wanted to bring the planet together into one combined consciousness, operating as a hive mind, that no more hate, no more anger against mutants and humans and vice versa. So are we going to get Onslaught? I don't know. I mean, they don't necessarily lead us to that idea, but there is enough hints where Magneto calls Professor X on what he's doing, and that he ends up controlling Magneto at that point. So Professor X is very much willing to get his hands dirty to save at that point. So will there be consequences for this at that point? Will we see Onslaught?
I certainly don't think it's off the table. I feel like it is less likely because where it left, seemingly Magneto is back, seemingly Professor X is back, but it would be foolish to rule it off the table at this point. The way that they have been pulling from comic books from, that 80s, 90s era, like, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they did it.
It's like Brent said, it's definitely on the table, but there's possibilities like next season could be one storyline, and then there's seeds with cameos in this season that could be a potential storyline for season 3. So I don't know. It all depends on how long they want to go with it, Chris. Will it be like a 2-part episode thing, or will it be a whole season?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, again, the Onslaught storyline is very controversial. Not a lot of love for it, but as we've seen with what Beau DeMayo and the showrunners and the show writers have done for this, they've been able to take storylines and story arcs that are not so loved at that point and somehow bring new life and new love into it. So I'll give them the chance if they bring him into it. But so when the magnetic blast goes out, we get another view of a lot of cameos. We get Silver Samurai again. So we're definitely, a lot of people are saying like, well, probably going to get him coming back next season. At that point, we keep on heading towards that. We see Captain America and Iron Man in the Situation Room in the White House. We see Daredevil swinging through Hell's Kitchen.
I smiled. Big smile.
We get Doctor Strange. He's working in the ER with his mystic power, since the power is out, so using magic to operate. Yep, there we go. And so we go back to Bastion's HQ, and we see he's mutated himself and is more machine now than man, twisted and evil.
Love the animation on this too. He looks fantastic. It gets better as the episode goes along as well.
Mm-hmm. He says that Xavier must pave the path to my dream in order to honor his own, meaning that the professor had to restore power so humanity would have faith in mutants once more. But by restoring the electricity, he has now restored the Sentinels, and says you mutants lost at birth. And that's interesting because he's a mutant and hates himself for it too.
Yeah, and it's weird because like his mom doesn't like the term mutant, but he's basically part man, part machine from his birth. I mean, I by classification would call him a mutant. He was picked up by Cerebro, so it is. But he considers himself above mutants the way Magneto considers himself above humans.
He's a technopath, but he is like I said, he is a mutant. So that's the confusing thing here.
Yeah, he talks about about the urges inside of him, and this links into the programming that was with Nimrod and eventually led to him having a deep-rooted hatred for all of mutant kind. He reveals the lie his dream was built upon by saying to Forge, Storm, and Beast, and Morpho were captured, saying that just think if the good professor had taken me in when Mother begged him, I'd be hanging there with you freaks. I had to go back because I wanted to make sure I caught that again. And I was like, oh, your mother just straight up lied to you in the sense of what had happened at that point.
One of them lied.
Yeah.
Professor X has a history of lying as well.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to believe him over Bastion, but somebody is lying in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
You think though that last episode Professor X would show the other people in his mind him going and asking for,
but he could also create
He could fake
inception.
He could fake that. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I don't have a lot of trust of Xavier in general. I believe that ultimately he is his end game is good. Mm-hmm. The goal is good. His means are not.
Yeah, definitely in the comics, Professor X is, especially throughout history, but really also more recently in the Krakoan era, he has gone down some very dark paths. But so Bastion sends out his Prime Sentinels again, and we see them swarming all over the world. We get more scenes of Cap and Iron Man seeing Prime Sentinels are in the Situation Room. We see Sentinels also show up in Wakanda with Black Panther, and this is T'Chaka, as we later find out, not T'Challa. He's taking him down with the help of the Dora Milaje. Now, this interpretation here is MCU created. This is not they never officially appeared. The Dora Milaje never officially appeared until the Christopher Priest run in his 1998 Black Panther run.
This Black Panther, I thought, was based on the one we saw from the Marvel animated universe back in the 90s, but the Dora Milaje was not invented then.
Well,
Correct,
that,
they
and
were
plus,
not.
technically,
Yeah.
in that connected universe, in the Fantastic Four run, T'Challa was Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
So we
I
do
thought
have
it was-
we
okay,
do
yeah.
have a bit of a. I saw a clip today. We do have
Yeah.
a bit of a retcon going on here.
Yeah, and we did see him in the background in Sanctuary Part 1 when Magneto, they lift the ships out.
Yeah,
for
he
the
is
first time.
standing
He is in
there
the
with
background.
same design. Well,
Yep, same design, but yeah,
Yeah.
there is a retcon going on here, which led to a kind of a discussion of why is Marvel not allowing T'Challa to be anything outside of What If?
Which is kind of not entirely accurate. Like T'Challa is in the Spidey and His Amazing Friends show, for example. Like they have used him. T'Challa was in that, let's be honest, not very good Avengers game from a couple years ago. He was in one of the deals. Like they are using T'Challa post Chadwick Boseman's death, but they're not using him in all the places we would expect, like
Yeah.
this.
you don't really have to either.
Yeah.
No, I mean, of course they don't have.
Yeah, during this also we get back to more cameos. We see Daredevil gets knocked back in a battle going on in the streets, but is quickly joined by Cloak and Dagger
Very
to back him up. And here in front of Josie's Bar, which is a big dive bar that Matt and Foggy would frequent many times. For those who don't know Cloak and Dagger, here's a brief little history of them. They are characters who were injected with synthetic drugs and gained light and dark force powers. Cloak is capable of teleportation through the dark force, which is something that another character tried to dabble with. Who was that, gentlemen? Oh, we did not do our homework. That would be the Spot. That would be the Spot.
Oh,
I didn't realize they were connected.
Yes, they were connected. Yes, he tried to replicate his powers, which is ended up how he got his abilities. He was trying to harness what Cloak had. Dagger creates, like daggers, and she can also heal people as well. We head to Genosha, where there's Psylocke, along with Northstar, Aurora, Puck, Cypher, and Exodus are there. In Russia, we see Omega Red again, Crimson Dynamo, and Darkstar stopping the Prime Sentinels, and they also appeared in Season 2 episode entitled Red Dawn. Gotta love these cameos.
They overthrow the Russian democracy, I think, in that episode.
Yeah, very quick overthrow.
The cameos are great. I want to know how Psylocke ended up without Flight. Like that's an odd pairing for me.
Or are they just
Well,
meeting up at Genosha? Like they're just separate entities
Plausible.
in there. At the
Yeah,
same time.
well, I mean, Cypher and Exodus are not technically part of Alpha Flight.
No, but Puck and Northstar and there's.
Of course, Vindicator's not over there helping. Of course.
Well, no,
No, that's
Vindicator, get that guy out of here.
That's Alpha Flight Cyclops, so Vindicator's also still wrong.
Whoa,
No, Joe.
no.
Not in this universe.
No. I reject the premise.
So Bastion, we get back, and then Bastion gets Sinister to get Cable to reveal how many attempts did he make to try to save Madeline and stop the Genosha massacre, and he says he made over 200 attempts.
And immediately turned it around and asked Bastion how his mom was doing.
I know, yeah.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
how quippy is even in the face.
Now, in relating to the homework from last week, the extra credit, as Bo DeMeo called it, he said, watch the episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Cause and Effect, which had the idea of the time loop and signals from the future to inform the past, realizing he can't accomplish this alone and embraces past in order to work with the X-Men to stop this future from happening. So in that episode, it had to make a change in order to get some part of the future to change, which is what he basically did here. He says they both ended up dead in the end. Cable says maybe they should have listened to what Time has got to say about his mom. And at that moment, so Jean basically died, and that we kind of all were like, she said she died. But then we get a huge shock moment when the Phoenix rises out of the water. The Phoenix has been teased all throughout these opening credits at that point. We know we were hopefully going to be seeing it at that point. And so it's great to see, but here's
It's a little convenient.
Here's my problem with it, because this just seems, and again, this is one of my nitpicks. the Phoenix, at least in this, is an easy way to get you out of the corner you backed yourself into. And so I like the Phoenix, but this one just seemed like, all right, we're just trying to move the story along, and it just seems like a good kind of quick and easy way to get the Prime Sentinels off the board.
Yeah.
It does work out that way, that everything that's going wrong gets completely fixed for the good in under 30 seconds. But I will say, if I trust these people and their way they're laying out these stories, if we get another like position of Phoenix at the end of next season or sometime next season where she goes off the rails and doesn't do a lot of good, that might set up a cameo, like the cameos that we're getting with Iron Man, Captain America. That might set up something for season 3 then. So I might look back at it better, but right now I completely agree with you guys. It's just convenient wipe of the board here.
Mm-hmm. So you get Bastion then trying to kill Cable, but Sinister says, no, you promised me you would give him to Sinister. So now we really know Madeline was not the key. It was always going to be Cable.
Yeah, because he wanted Summers and Gray DNA together. Yeah, it was always Cable.
Yeah, because he believes that using the techno-organic virus through Cable is what can take down Apocalypse, which you have seen in the original series that can weaken and possibly kill Apocalypse. We've only seen it weaken him, though.
He had to go into hibernation or rest or something after that happened, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the Phoenix then uses her powers to reassemble the inhibitor to sever Bastion's connection with the Prime Sentinels and fully wipes out the Prime Sentinels across the planet, removing the programming that Bastion had done. Then this is where I did appreciate Phoenix at this point, with what she does to Sinister.
Yes, can I just say though, I do agree with you guys even more after she like completely like cures everybody from being Prime Sentinels, because Beast even said before, like, we don't have no idea how to change them back. Like we're not sure. So that was another convenient. We don't even have to figure out any logical way to change them back.
Yeah,
because
in the comics, when Rogue tried to take one of the abilities of the Prime Sentinels, she would get no memories. She said there's nothing there. Like there was no way. Once you went Prime Sentinel, there was no going back.
Yeah, you're right. Again, Phoenix has always been a bit of a get out of jail free card for the X-Men. Like anytime it's come into play outside the original Phoenix Saga, original Dark Phoenix Saga, it's been just, effectively a plot device, which, I mean, okay, technically everything's a plot device, but you know what I mean when I say
You only get one an episode, though, Brett. You only get one an episode.
That
Everyone
feels like
gets
a
one.
bit excessive.
Yeah. So Phoenix then gets Mr. Sinister, chastising him for his century-plus efforts to steal mutant powers to better himself, and she uses her piles to strip his DNA of those things that he took on, and leaves him as a very disfigured, very old figure. And he says, "My face, he'll be able to look like." And Morph has a funny line when Sinister asks him what he looks like, and he changes into it. So it looks pretty much like I always thought you'd look, and he runs off like a crying teenager.
Yeah, that's the only first thing I thought too, Chris.
And let's just be honest, gentlemen. We know Sinister is going to come back.
Of course he is, but that getting for Morph, that had to feel good to be the one to show him.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way he gets his look back, is there? Like, I would like to be repercussions.
I
hope he does. I hope he does it.
We're getting. You know what? My hope is we get when he does come back, we're getting sassy Sinister. I want sassy Sinister.
I'll take it. It.
I'm here for it.
Yep. So then Bastion then rises up, rips off Cable's arm, and beats him with it, and then uses it to enhance him further. Now, I just have to laugh at that moment. It's just, we're not going to humiliate, we're not going to rip your arm off, we're just going to humiliate you at that point. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, all I could think of is, oh no, he ripped off the Winter Soldier arm. But
quit hitting yourself, Cable. Quit hitting yourself.
That scene was brutal, though, right? I love what he does with the arm and the metals it's made from.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that's the virus, though, isn't it? Like, that's what the virus did to his arm.
It is. There's always some debate of whether it's bionic or what he's kind of basically how like held the virus back in.
Okay.
But that's the thing, this is we talked about last episode when he used his full telekinetic abilities on Jean. Like in the comics, when he does that, the virus starts coming back with a vengeance, and it starts reinfecting him again. We get nothing like that here. I mean, again, like we as comic book nerds know this, but I would have thought like some sort of like reminding he's still infected. He's still in a battle 24/7 trying to keep this virus at bay from killing him. We get nothing like that.
Phoenix Force should have just cured him.
I mean,
Yeah, no, mom can't do that apparently. Mom will take out everyone else instead of curing her own son. So
Ripped every mutant gene away from Sinister, but no.
just like Cyclops being a deadbeat dad at that point. Phoenix, Gene, you're ranking right next to him. So, anyways, Bastion then goes fully to Ultron mode, as I'm going to call it, and then wants to basically his plan is to throw Asteroid M into the Earth and wipe us all out. Said screw it. It's like one of my children sometimes when they get upset with something, I'm gonna take my ball and go, you can't have it. Fine, I'm gonna destroy everyone. Yeah.
That's a great description.
It's the Sokovia 2.0.
Yeah. So then we head back into Magneto's mind. Well, I love this. Eventually we'll head back to Magneto's mind where Charles and him are locked inside this world. In the outside world, just remember Wolverine's clinging to his life at that point. Magneto has now forgotten who he is and Charles is trying to help him work through his trauma, but approach them through a new perspective. So even though most of the X-Men want to take out Magneto permanently, Professor X wants to save him. This likely calls back to what he did in the final decision. In that, Professor X was going to fly to the Blackbird into Master Mold to destroy him and more than likely kill himself. But it was loaded with explosive. But Magneto was able to help get him out. Now this is that's what I did like at this point. Outside of this, Cyclops goes to Wolverine's bed and said, "Don't you dare break her heart now. Live. Use that heal. Do what you do at that point."
That was a great moment, really touching moment from Cyclops Wolverine, and at the same time, Cyclops kind of using he's right, that would break Jean's heart, but he's also trying to use it as motivation for Wolverine because, frankly, they need him still.
But I will say too, this does go back to when Jean kissed Wolverine. What did Wolverine do? He's been pining for her for 5 seasons, and he know you're blind with Scott. So it's really Scott and Logan's relationship has come so far since he got punched in the guts in the first episode.
Do you think X-Men 97 has the ability to say, let's go thruple?
I won't go out, to be honest with you anymore, Chris.
I think it'd be great if they did it. I would be surprised if we saw it.
Yeah. There's always a chance.
There was one for each, but Genosha happened.
So at that point, Professor X communicates with the team saying that in order to save the world and stop Bastion, they can't lose Magneto. And, but I like how Rogue kind of unites the team, saying, the cards are always in favor. All right, I got to stop here because at no point in this episode do we get any sort of, acknowledgement of Rogue, Sunspot, heck, even Cyclops doing what they did in the last episode. And I know Travis talked about this last night on the Geekverse review at that point, but I understand, like, writing, there's only so much time you can't have it. I would like I'm hoping in the first episode there's going to be some sort of discussion about what had happened, because if there's absolutely nothing said about what went down at that point, that is a huge loss of an opportunity and one to say, oh, come on.
I understand, and I can give him a pass for this episode.
Yes.
There wasn't time, and I don't mean time in the sense of, you could make the episode 2 minutes longer. I mean, the actual narrative of the story, the way things are going, there wasn't an opportunity for them to sit down and have a discussion.
Correct. I agree with that.
I'm willing to give them a little longer than the first episode of season 2. That first episode, the whole team is back together. That's how long they have.
Okay. Yep.
So if that takes 3 episodes, fine. Cyclops, with where he ends up, he's not in the same place as Professor X. Those two need to talk, right? Like, they need to sit down and hammer it out. That said, Sunspot, Rogue, Sunspot's not with them all, and Rogue isn't. Like, I would love to see at least somebody from Rogue's side talk to her about it, because several of them are there. I don't think Jean is going to get on Cyclops' case about it, because they're split up. So to me, like, that first episode, they're all together. That's when I want to see it.
That's a good point there, Brant. And again, it doesn't have to. If you get it in this episode, it would have been rushed. It wouldn't have. There's not, like you guys said, there's not enough time. You can do something quick, 30 to 60 seconds, but that's not enough for turning your back on a team that you've been with for 5 seasons. There's some repercussions that need to come from that and some discussions. So
yeah,
I don't fault Sunspot as much as I fault Rogue, who her discussion needs to be bigger than
Yeah. It's something that can't be just not discussed, because if it is next season, no discussion is had at that point. That's a big mark against it. That's an opportunity loss. So, but anyways, the fun part. Let's get back to the fun part, because when Bastion arrives, Rogue gets in the first strike, and this was outstanding. Saying his name was Gambit. Remember it, and just go. We want to talk about. That is full, like, Bruce Banner telling Cap in Avengers, saying, my secret is I'm always angry at that point. She says, I'm just letting loose. Or I'll give a DC reference for you, Mr. Hines, at that point. We're talking Superman opening it all up, saying, you know what? I have to hold back everything. But when I'm going against you, Darkseid, at that point, I'm just going to cut loose and throw it all out with a caution to the wind at that point. That's basically what Rogue does here.
JLU series finale.
Yeah, that was such a great moment. Seeing Rogue get a pop off and completely unleash that way on the person responsible for the death of Gambit. Absolutely glad she got that moment.
And again, I got to come in with the animation here. It is fantastic. Rogue in action in this first season. Nothing in the 5 seasons before, even close to how good it looks here.
Mm-hmm. So she goes all out of them. She ends up taking him all the way to the blue side of the moon, which is where many civilizations have lived. This was originally created by the Skrulls. It is oxygen rich, which is why they can actually breathe there. But it's also been home to the Inhumans. It also in the current comics right now, is the Citadel for the Watcher, and it's also where this team fought the Shi'ar during the Dark Phoenix saga.
Where's the Watcher to? Like you could watch Genosha, but I guess there's not enough death to watch here.
He's only there for certain universe massive events.
Yeah.
So apparently, and this wasn't as big, I guess, as Genosha was.
Yep. So before we continue on with it, we're going to take our next ad break. So, ladies and gents, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they could be a bit loud. So give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. So, Rogue's trying to hold her own at that point, but eventually Bastion kind of is able to get one in on her at that point. So, grabs her, starts choking her, getting her out of the atmosphere into the vacuum of space, when who shows up to save the day?
Sunspot. Newly named Sunspot.
It's got more pizzazz.
I was trying to remember the actual phrase. He called them the something, like the something air, and he's like, well, actually, the name Sunspot. It's got more flair. Like, those are the words, but I don't remember what specifically.
Yeah, the air to the DaCosta.
I do like the look of Sunspot. He's always been a
air or something, Brent.
That might be it. Yeah, Sunspot was always just a cool design character, right? Like, even in the comics, I've always liked his design. When he's powered up, I mean, he looks like a regular, boring old human when he's not powered up. But when he's powered up, that looks really cool.
One question: what did Bastion do? Like, what power did he use he basically teleported away and then reappeared to grab Rogue? And
or
I'm
just
not
run
sure.
really fast to look like teleportation.
Okay.
Future Sentinel Tech is the answer to any
That's
question
easy.
about
There
what
you go.
Bastion
Perfect.
did.
Yep.
Perfect. I like that headcanon, Brett.
Yep. So then we cut to Times Square with Asteroid M looming in the background. We then head to the White House, where some people are urging President Kelly to initiate the Magneto protocols, but you get others like Captain America and Black Panther urging him not to do this, but in the end he ends up authorizing it. So in this file is interesting on Magneto, and it says that his children are Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver with a redacted name. My guess is that's Polaris.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And with a deceased wife, who in the comics is Magda. And then we get team affiliations, where it is the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the Acolytes, and the X-Men. Under aliases, we see David Helblin, who is the original voice actor, Ian, redacted, we know that's Ian McKellen, and Michael, redacted, we know that's Fassbender.
I like that. That's a great touch.
Yes.
That they included those. There was an odd thing about this scene.
Yep.
This is the most nitpicky, pedantic, weird question, whatever. Or not question, just detail that I noticed.
Branded to you, so we expect you to be nitpicky and put these
The
things
first time they go to this situation room, we see Iron Man and Captain America, right? And I love that they have Iron Man's costume or armor from the 90s show.
Oh, yeah.
Captain America has his mask on. Yep. This scene, Captain America's mask is off. The next time we see them, it's back on. It's like he's just taking it on and off throughout the thing. Iron Man's helmet's on the whole time. I don't even know why I caught it. It's just, the second time I watched it, I had to. I'm like looking for it. I'm like, did I see what I thought? I know it's just weird. It certainly no marks
Mask on,
against
mask
it,
off.
but
Mask
it's
on,
no
mask
different than
off.
if you wear glasses. Sometimes you have them on, sometimes you put them on your head. Whatever. It just it's something I noticed.
He's very cavalier with who knows his identity these days.
Yeah,
Everyone knows that you can't wear a mask when you're speaking to the president. So
I guess not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, tell that to Tony Stark, I guess, but
I know, yeah.
he didn't even speak.
So heading back into Magneto's mind, we see Charles saying it was Magneto's pain that has led him down this dark path, and that the reason he can't see his parents is that they died when he was so young. Charles tries to get him to focus on those who have tried to help him, and we do see this boat that was been out there for a while, and we see individuals, shadows of Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Polaris, very clearly all three of those, but those here in the light is Rogue, the only one in the light.
I think it was around this moment where there's the line that I picked up on from the original series where he says, Magneto says something to Charles like, my village use reason while others use tanks. And that is a line almost word for word, definitely the same sentiment of my village use reason while others use tanks from the original series.
Yep, I think you're right on that. So we get back in Asteroid M, we see the battle continuing with Bastion fighting back. Jubilee even hits him with a disc of fireworks like her older self did in Motendo. So we've seen her actually learning from what she got there.
That wasn't big enough. That needed to be a little bit more. That was
I agree,
quick.
but
I
it's
wish it was
something.
a bit more.
Yeah. Then we get Cyclops versus Bastion with a beam off, as I call it. With Cyclops using his Marvel versus Captain Optic Blast that messes him up pretty good. Gotta love that finishing move.
20-hit combo.
Yeah.
Look good.
Yeah, it looked pretty much, they pulled it almost directly frame for frame of the video game.
I think he even kind of yells something like he says my family, but he does yell just like he does in the game too.
He has an interesting scream in the other scene when he goes full out there where I kind of snickered. I say, oh, man, he's one step away from Wilhelm. So Bastion is thrown into the Sentinel and symbolically represents where he has come from, and the monster he's created will also be his doom. This further shown the rest of the Gold Team arriving in a Sentinel, that they're basically their own Trojan horse. Again, Beast taking over another Sentinel. He's getting really good at this.
I love how Bastion thinks it's going to be reinforcement for him. And then the foot comes out across him. That's just a nice touch.
He thinks it'll help him out.
So Cyclops has the opportunity to go for the kill shot while Beast has him under the Sentinel's boots, and he tells the team to stand down. And this is where I know, David and I have had some gentle ribbings of each other about Cyclops is right, Cyclops is wrong. But this is where I'll put back at that point. He says, we're going to do what we've been telling humanity to do for years. Stop fighting the future. And Storm chimes in saying, embrace it. This is where I will push back as Cyclops is right. This is not Cyclops is right. This is what Professor Xavier has been teaching them to do.
It's Cyclops learning.
It's
Cyclops learns a lesson.
Cyclops learning the lesson that Professor Xavier... I wouldn't say he's learning a lesson. I would say that he's following through.
Or applying a lesson.
Applying what the professor has been doing. He taught them that for years. And that they can lose people they love or be ostracized by their birth families, but with the mutants and the X-Men, you'll always have a found family, #family, and that's what the book is always about, and that's what the X-Men have been about at that point. So I will push back and saying Cyclops is not right. This is Professor Xavier, in this case, is right.
It's fair. That's fair. I mean,
sorry, David.
In this case, I think Professor Xavier is right.
Sorry, David. I told you I'd explain it. I told you I'd
This
explain it.
This isn't even a case of Cyclops being wrong. Just to kind of side with David here on this because I got to do that. Stay.
That's fine. You got to do it.
I know. The thing is, Cyclops was still right to do it because he's applying Xavier's lessons, but it was Cyclops' idea to even do it. It was Cyclops' leadership to do it because the whole rest of the team was ready to keep going. And the part of me that wanted to watch a cool action scene was like, "Oh, go get him!" Like,
yeah, come
I'm
on,
with you, Ro, go crush him. But no, like really,
let's go Akira on him.
His name was Gambit, remember it? But no, like really, like it was still Cyclops' call, and he made the right call.
Can I say too that I would have liked seeing Rogue say something because we never got any resolution of the leaving the team, and he's the reason Gambit's dead, the Bastion right there. So she didn't say anything. She just was background. So again, that kind of goes back to not having that conversation about leaving, rejoining.
And
all
it
that.
also leads a little more credence to the theory about when she's got some of Trask's anger at that point and infecting
Sure.
her at that point.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of theories. That's why she kind of went really rogue. So
You could not help yourself.
You didn't. It's like you didn't know if you wanted to say it or not.
I know.
I'm glad you did.
I know, yeah, So he tells Bastion that his mother lied to him and that it was a professor who wanted to help him and not leaving him. He says parents mess it up and knows how it feels to have things you trusted in the most, the future you were building, crash down around you and refuse to let go when you are buried by what you should have been. You are not alone. Bastion laughs at that and says that humanity would rather die than have kids like us. This is his acknowledgement that he is a mutant.
He did say us.
He did say us.
Yep.
That's when the Magneto protocols come in. The nukes hit asteroid and destabilizing it and start crashing Earth. Now, okay, really. That's the Magneto protocols, launching a bunch of nukes at Asteroid M and not think you're going to destabilize it and come crashing down.
And you would think there's a lot of metal in those particular missiles.
Those were missiles, right?
This was
the Americans are dumb.
This was
dumb.
A poor plan.
Especially
Gosh,
everyone's like, guys, don't shoot these. Don't shoot these. Like little Captain America and Black Panther are telling you not to do it.
The Magneto protocols are so made. Oh, we're just going to launch nukes at it. Yeah, that's a hell of a protocol plan.
I guess someone didn't listen to that speech Professor X gave last episode.
Yeah. So then Bastion eventually basically chooses death and is pulled into the antimatter core. A hole then opens up and Morph then turns into Mr. Fantastic, which is another cool thing he's turning into. Cyclops says he will stay behind to allow the team to escape, much like Gambit did in Sanctuary and Jean did in the Phoenix Saga.
I love that he called it out to Jean. That's what you would do. That's what you did.
Mm-hmm. But Jean and the rest of the team won't let him do it. This right here, outstanding run in the comics. This is homaging the end of the storyline of the Fall of the Mutants, where the team sacrifices themselves to save the world. But then they're given a second chance at life by passing through, and I talked about this a couple of episodes ago, through a portal called the Siege Perilous, where after that, the world thinks they're dead. They move to the Australian outback, which I and many others call the outback years of the X-Men, where they are heroes in secret. They have this ability that they'll go in and nobody will really see what they look like. But for all intents and purposes, for a while, the X-Men are dead in the Marvel Universe, but they are still operating clandestinely. So this will be kind of a little bit like what we're getting towards the end of this episode, where the world thinks the X-Men are gone. So both Scott and Jean are forced are basically go like Obi-Wan on them and communicate with Cable. And uses her, and they have this kind of nice heart-to-heart, and Jean uses her powers to have Scott see Nathan with his own eyes. Scott says how proud he is of Nathan and that he was angry that he had to do what his parents did to him, and he didn't want to do that. Cable says he hated hearing the stories about the X-Men when in the future because he should have been there fighting alongside them, and Jean says he was.
Such a great moment. Very, very,
very touching.
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect mix up too.
I did get, in these moments as a father, I get a little teared up at that point because again, they are hinting at the idea that they're not going to make it.
Yeah, and I like the moment where Cable, seasoned soldier veteran, he's seen some things. They basically say, we're sorry that we never got to say goodbye, and Cable kind of turns and goes, "Oh, it's one of those conversations." Mm-hmm.
So then we get the world watching as they're trying to, the X-Men are trying to stop the asteroid from coming down. You get this nice operatic version of the X-Men theme. People are watching around the world. I'm just going to turn it over to Mr. Hines because something happens at this moment that finally gets some confirmation. We get, what is this, a 30-year wait to confirm some information?
Confirmed by Bo DeMeo himself?
Yep.
It's better than writing the person who was the voice actor for Spider-Man in that old show
So-
and asking
so-
him what happened.
Yep. So what happened? Where
We
did we
see
see? Why are we
Peter-
so excited?
We see Peter, Mary Jane, and Flash Thompson all in this, looking at the TV. They're basically talking about their impending doom. And I'm going to give a little bit of crap to Peter because why aren't
Yeah.
you out being Spider-Man? Daredevil's out here busting his butt fighting the Prime Sentinels, and you're just skipping town. I
But
guess you-
why is this so big of a 30-year wait for an answer? There was a big reason why we're making a big deal about this.
well,
What
Mary Jane was
happened?
last. She was last to, I guess
The
we'll call it the
spot, right?
multiverse.
The multiverse, yeah, because the
Yeah.
last episode of we leave off with Spider-Man with Madam Web going into the multiverse to find MJ. So we
That was
never
supposed
got
to
an
be
answer.
Season 6 of
Yeah.
that show, but it got restarted. Spider-Man or Ultimate Spider-Man or Unlimited. I can't
Yeah.
remember what it was called now. That one started instead.
Yeah, so we never got an answer if Peter found MJ. So now we officially know
Now
that
we know.
Peter found MJ.
Yep.
Which
and
is
we
good.
and we know it's her. Bo
Yep.
DeMeo confirmed it. It is her.
It is her. We go back to the Blackbird with, Wolverine holding on to dear life, saying Jean then transforms into Jean, telling Wolverine that she loves him to keep him fighting. Bo DeMeo got asked this question about Morph saying this, and he confirmed that saying this is Morph confessing his feelings to Wolverine. Excuse me.
I thought that.
Let me correction. This is Morph confessing their feelings for Wolverine. My apologies. Their feelings for Wolverine.
Correct. You're right. Which
So.
I mean,
Yes.
Wolverine, man, he could be making some plays for some people.
And you know what? At that point, I this is again another thing, and I do mean this seriously. I don't know how much further they're going to take this, and I would love to see Morph move further into this and have this kind of discussion of what they would like to do. If this is all we get of talking about Morph and saying that what their feelings are, that's really not enough.
No,
It's
not
not. Side note, it's really nice that Morph made it through the season. This is the first time he did that as like a part of the team.
He didn't last 30 seconds on the team before he
no
was killed.
accidental deaths, no running away to figure himself out. Like he's through all that. He even got a taunt Mr. Sinister, as we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And he made it through unscathed, at least physically, as far as we know, as part of the team.
Brandon, he was one of the cooler parts of the team because we got basically a Marvel cameo fist from Morph every battle.
Yep, he proved his
Absolutely,
worth.
yes.
Magneto then snaps out of it and helps out Charles, restabilizes Asteroid M, but in doing so, this scatters them across time. So people are like saying, oh, who did this, that, and the other. Okay, the anti-gravity well, that's what happened. Like, that
Missiles
was
shot it.
destabilizing.
Missiles shot it.
It was destabilizing, things like that, someone wanted them out of time, but it also leads, like, that is part of it, the destabilizing of the anti-gravity well that was keeping up Asteroid M.
Right.
We don't know who's advising President Kelly as well, Chris. Going back to the end credit scene, this could have been planned out.
Yep. So we then get to cut to 6 months later. The Xavier Mansion is basically shut down, chained up with the memorials out there. People think the X-Men are dead. This is 6 months. They refer to it as E-Day. I really want to know what E-Day stands for.
In my head, it's Extinction Day because tolerance is extinction.
Yeah, that's I guess, but I was like, well, they didn't extinct.
They don't tell us.
extinction the mutants. It's not like like M-Day with post House of M at that point. It's
right.
not that that made sense. This is like okay. We get the news saying that Graydon Creed is running against President Kelly, who's leading the polls. We can hint towards what he's representing at that point, confirming to real world events. President Kelly's taking hits for his decisions going on in Santa Marco. We get to Forge, who has a bulletin board, kind of a la Days of Future Past, looking at the status of the X-Men and the Allies. And it almost looks like Forge is working to get a new X-Men team established, which is what happened in the comics in the crossover in the Muir Island saga, which then led to the team being rebooted in the Jim Lee era. Most of the X-Men on this are missing and presumed dead, while Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are off-world. Cable is missing, Archangel is missing and presumed dead, Jubilee and Sunspot are AWOL, Dust, Magic, Colossus, Iceman, Havoc, Emma Frost, Shadowcat, and Exodus are all alive.
Not enough X Factor on this list, considering
Especially
we're talking
from the-
about Forge.
But you're also getting some interesting ones with New Mutant / Generation X.
I love that stuff. It's like one more row and get some X
Brent wants the
Factor in
board
there, too.
bigger. Brent wants the board
Yeah.
Like
bigger.
look at it. He worked with a team. He worked with X Factor. He's got Havoc, but
and that's the same thing. Wolverine's also missing and presumed dead. Morph is missing and presumed dead.
to Forge's perspective, yes. For us, we don't know what happened to him
Yeah.
because
We also don't know
see it.
how X Factor ended. So we don't know if the members of X Factor are not on good terms with Forge, so maybe they wouldn't agree to
Plausible,
being
sure.
in this
Yeah.
new X-Men team.
And, you know, at this point, I did see some discussions at that point, you know, where are the Avengers during this whole thing? You know, we do see Cap, we do see Iron Man. The idea, from what it's understanding, like, they're off planet because Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are part of the Avengers, and they are off-world. That is why they have not stepped in and gotten involved.
And obviously
in this.
not all of them are off-world.
Correct.
But some of them are.
Too much red tape.
Yep. Bishop then walks in with a new haircut, and Forge points a gun at him. I wonder if that's that permanent mutant ending gun, because he has a bad habit of creating things like that. Demanding to know who he is, Bishop says that they will be friends one day. He tells them that it's not where the X-Men are, it is when in time are they. So this is where we get to the team is scattered through time. We see Rogue, Nightcrawler, Beast, Professor X, and Magneto stranded in Egypt in 3000 BC, where some Egyptians are fighting against a masked man who they are able to beat back and reveals himself to be En-Sabah-Nur, a.k.a. Apocalypse. We get a flash of this big kind of futuristic look at Egypt. So part of everyone's homework as we wait to season 2 is a storyline called X-Men: The Rise of Apocalypse. It is 4 issues. It looks at the origins of Apocalypse, but there's also another individual that plays a big part in Apocalypse's growth, and that is Kang the Conqueror and his war against him, and he is responsible for also kicking out Rama-Tut, a.k.a. Kang the Conqueror, out of there into the future. So
You got a variant of them in season 4 of X-Men, the animated series, a variant of Kang.
Yep. You get, I think it was Immortus, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Yeah. Cyclops and Jean are in 3690 AD in the future, and Mother Ascani finds them who is really, for those in the comics, that is Rachel Summers, and is voiced by Gates McFadden. This is also part of the homework that is tied to that Bo DeMeo assigned, because Gates McFadden is Dr. Crusher from Star Trek: The Next Generation. So she will be voicing Mother Ascani in season 2. She is the daughter of Jean and Scott from Days of Future Past storyline, where Robert Kelly is assassinated, leading to a mutant holocaust. She is the leader of Clan Ascani, which stands for the Clan of Outsiders, as they are united to take out Apocalypse, and they have the spirit and ideals of the X-Men of the past, and in the comics is whom Scott and Jean give Nathan to. In the comic, this is your next part of homework, The Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix. It is a 4-issue miniseries. Mother Ascani brought her parents to the future to help raise the other Nathan. So Mother Ascani calls for Nathan, who comes out of the shadows. In the comics, Scott and Jean inhabit the bodies of 2 people named Red and Slim, spelled Slymm, and raise Nathan for a time without telling him who they are, and went on to defeat Apocalypse. So that is where we end the show proper, but then we get a post-credit scene. Did one of us say that there was going to be a post-credits? I think that might have been you, Travis.
I did.
Yeah, so good credit for you. So you win that one, and I'm going to win this next part, where we head back to Genosha, and we see a hand that is Apocalypse reaching into the dirt. And he says, "So much pain, my children, so much death." And he holds out the card, the Queen of Hearts. # Chris told you. My fact or fiction from last week, we would be getting a Horseman of the Apocalypse of members of the X-Men at that point. So we are getting Gambit coming back in this way, which I think is great. Your other homework assignment, ladies and gentlemen, is X-Men Blood of Apocalypse. That encompasses Cable and Deadpool 26 through 27 and X-Men 177 to 187. This tells about the Gambit becoming the Horseman of Death, which I will say this. It is not a great storyline. I much prefer when Wolverine was the Horseman of Death. It also leads to him getting back his adamantium skeleton.
Okay.
Yep. So, and I think he also looks cooler with being the Horseman of Death. But he also Wolverine also does something very bad to one of the X-Men as a result to get himself back. I'll leave that lie as that. So he goes and kills an X-Men.
Sure, like you do.
Yep. So gentlemen, what do you think of this ending?
I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. Pretty much did everything I would have wanted, other than I would have enjoyed a couple minutes, like we talked about, for the team to have dealt with the people who betrayed them last week. But I understand why they haven't, and it's not that I grade them negatively for that. That grade is TBD. We'll see how it is. They never addressed it again. Well, that's a negative.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Brent, on that. I would have loved to see. To be honest with you, I would have loved to see a little bit better of a look at Rachel there in that because we saw her in Bastion's Perfect Future as basically a slave, using her powers for something. So I did really like that. And with the Apocalypse thing, I don't know, is he going to be the big bad for the entire season? Or is he going to be half because we have the onslaught in the back of the room? Is that going to come out? And like I said, is that going to be a full season storyline?
We know Apocalypse is coming. We don't know if Onslaught is. And Apocalypse behind the scenes, I think it'll be like Apocalypse is to Bastion what probably Gambit is to Sinister.
Also, Chris called Gambit, watch out for Rogue, because she's not in a great place, and potentially to be one of the Horsemen, she could be reunited with Gambit. And
that has never been done in the comics, but I could not necessarily put it past them to do it here. Again, we could have multiple former X-Men. Again, Wolverine in the comics, he does go into a feral form. They kind of hint at the comics that the adamantium was something that possibly prevented him from going feral at that point. So will we see feral Wolverine in it?
With the bandana?
It's not even just the bandana. Wolverine loses his darn nose. Yeah, go look at what happens. Right. He loses his nose.
I forgot about that.
There's a lot.
I've seen a few panels going by.
Oh my gosh. Like that is again. That's the time I stepped away from X-Men, because they just went a little too far with getting crazy on that one. So.
Stepped away, or did they drove you away?
Onslaught drove me away, and then post Avengers versus X-Men drove me away. The Bendis era of X-Men, I'm sorry, I'm not a fan. If you are, good for you. I love Bendis for many things. That is not a run I appreciate him. That is not his strong suit.
Brock and I enjoyed that quite a bit.
That's okay. You can choose violence on this one. All right, gentlemen. So we did say and hint towards this. So ranking each episode of the series as a whole at that point, I will first turn it over to our guest, Mr. Hines, to say his rankings. Why don't we go from last to first?
All of them at once?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Number 10 is Life Death Part 1.
Motendo,
Yep. Number 9 is Life Death Part 2. Mm-hmm. Number 8 is Bright Eyes. Number 7 is Mutant Liberation Begins. Number 6 is Fire Made Flesh. Number 5 is Tolerance is Extinction Part 1. Number 4 is To Me, My X-Men. Number 3 is Tolerance is Extinction Part 3. Number 2 is Tolerance is Extinction Part 2. And number 1 is Remember It.
Gotcha. Brent?
A lot of similarities there.
Yep, there's some, yeah.
Number 10, Motendo / Life Death Part 1, followed by Life Death Part 2. Number 8 is Mutant Liberation Begins. Number 7 is Bright Eyes. Number 6 is To Me, My X-Men. Number 3 is Fire Made Flesh. Numbers 4, 3, and 2 are Tolerance is Extinction, but it's Part 1, Part 2, and then Part 3. Basically, I'm sorry. It's Part 1, I can't talk. Part 2 is the third one of them. Part 2 is my number 4. Part 1 I have ranked above that, and then Part 3 above that, and then finally topping it off with Remember It.
Yep. Very similar. So, yes, number 10 is Motendo Life Death Part 1, followed by Life Death Part 2. Number 7 is Fire Made Flesh. Number 6, to me, My X-Men. I'm losing count. Next one is Bright Eyes, followed by Mutant Liberation Begins. Next week, for my number 4 is Extinction is Tolerance Part 1, followed by Part 3. Part 2 is my number 2, and we're 3 for 3. Remember It, episode 5, which they have submitted to be for consideration for an Emmy Award for best animated. Best animated. They've submitted it for consideration for the show being nominated for this episode.
I actually listened to Happy Nation again this morning on the way to work.
And it was an outstanding episode. So a season as a whole, what would you, out of 10, what would you rank this?
9.5, I guess. And the half points are just for the Life Death episodes. Like those were the only ones I thought were just okay, and the rest were just straight up bangers.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with 9.5 as well. I was leaning 9, but no, there's just too much goodness here, and they've stepped the bar up from the original series, and I didn't think they could have phoned it in if they liked.
I'm going 9.7 at that point. I don't expect. When it comes down to it, it's rare when you get a 10. There's always room to improve at that point. Even what you said, Brent. Even the quote unquote our bottom choices of the episodes are still good episodes. They're just not on the same tier at that
It's
point.
like the MC. It's like ranking the MCU.
There is not a bad episode in here.
I know people were wanting to say after we got, was it 3 episodes? No, the reviewers got 3. We got 2. I know after that second week when 3 episodes were out, people were wanting to say this is the best the X-Men has ever been in any media, any whatever. And I think that's a fair comment to make now that we've seen the story play out. I mean, yes, we know it ended with to be continued. Frankly, that doesn't bother me because we've known, I think, since before this season started that season 2 was already confirmed and in production. And so I'm fine with them ending on to be continued because of that. I am comfortable saying at this point, I wouldn't say it 2 or 3 episodes in. I'll say it now. This is absolutely the best season of X-Men the Animated Series. Of all those, like, there's no question, not a doubt in my mind. This has to be the best. This is probably the best season of comic book television as far as animation goes, period. And it's in the discussion for live action as well. And so any comic book animated season, I'll put this up against any of it.
No, I mean it is some outs. It went on a whole new level,
It's so good that it basically has given me what I messaged Chris. I have a factor fixing that's come from just how awesome the show has been. This lineup, this group is going to land in the MCU. I don't know if it's for full time or just an appearance in the multiversal war. This group is going to land in the live action. I'm very confident of that.
But again, you think about like this, and you're not necessarily. I don't think you're too crazy in that sense. But remember what we learned in Multiverse of Madness. Mr. Fantastic said incursions start happening when people who are staying on worlds, or staying in universes, or all realities that they don't belong in. Look how many we now have in 616 at that point. We had for a time, we had Shang-Chi's mom staying in there. We now have, if we wanted to bleed over to the X-Men, like how many different people and different who don't belong. Like now we have, what was it? Rambo now in a different reality that she doesn't belong in. Like we're getting all these things that are starting to base. So are we going to start seeing destabilization based on these people who are in realities that they shouldn't be a part of? American Chavez doesn't belong in our reality.
American Chavez is from a different reality.
Being a little bit more loose with that, like the other world just started to crumble pretty quickly after Doctor Strange was there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so, we don't know how long they were destabilized already. Like remember Earth 838, that Doctor Strange had been jacking with the multiverse for a while, and so
using that spell book. Yeah.
Well, Travis, do you want to say your fact or fiction now?
That is it.
Oh, that is it. Okay, that is it. Okay, gotcha.
They will end up in the MCU. I don't know if it's permanently, but they will show up either in the Multiversal War or they're going to transition and be the actual full-time X-Men in the MCU.
Okay.
I think that's why we haven't heard much about it either.
Okay.
Okay, I have to ask, do you ungraded as in not part of your fact or fiction? Do you think it'll be live action or they'll be animated when that happens?
No, they'll be live action.
Okay.
We'll get all the suits that that'll be lined up from an Earth that they'll bring in. I don't think they'll do the animated, especially if it's in the big one with Kang. I don't think they're going to bring in animated versions to stand next to us, not at that top. So yeah, I do think there'll be actual live action actors.
Okay, good. Well, make sure DM me before you forget about that, so I can include that in our official Fact or Fictions. But Travis, I want to thank you for being a part of this. Where you've been here, I know it's been a lot of fun and breaking this down with you. So tell people how they can follow you.
Thanks again, guys. It's so much fun talking Marvel animation with you guys. You can find me on Twitter at Travis_156. I host 2 shows on the network: The Animation Nation, where we're looking at Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes right now, and DC Alliance, where we go live Friday nights talking about all things DC, which isn't a whole lot right now, but reviewing Dead Boy Detectives. So that's an okay show. There's a lot out there. I can't tell you go watch something that but
ringing endorsement if I've ever heard one.
Well, we're talking about top tier here, so which usually is the case with Marvel. Thanks, guys. It's so much fun, and see you on the next animated thing.
All right. Thank you, Travis.
Bye, guys.
All right. So Brent and I were kind of hoping there'd be no news just because this should just be enough for everyone at that point. But Marvel had other ideas.
They had other ideas. It's stuff worthy of talking about.
It is definitely worthy of talking about. So we're going to head up with Disney had their upfronts this week. And for those of you who don't know what upfronts are usually revolving around television where they are premiering what's going to be coming up in the fall for the advertisers because people need to buy ads and things like that to continue making shows like this. So they want to put their best foot forward and get them all talking for everything. So, when we now have a branding of Marvel Television back now, so they are now officially branding this Marvel Television. And so the first thing that kind of comes up is something that we have seen many titles of at that point, as I queued up here. Agatha, we got another interesting titles as this video reveals of the new Agatha show. So, Brent, do you see it on there? Do I got it pulled up?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. Here was the teaser for it.
I mean, if you can call it that.
So we started off with the Darkhold Diaries. Then we headed to the House of Harkness. Coven of Chaos was their next title. The last one, now this was quickly deleted. They did not let this go out there at that long, saying Agatha the Lying Witch with Great Wardrobe. So Agatha All Along is finally the official title of the spin-off show from WandaVision. 2-episode premiere August 18th and this year at that point. So I believe is it at a Wednesday?
Yeah, but September 18th, not August.
Sorry, September 18th. My apologies.
And I still think all those other ones are episode titles.
Oh yeah,
like we've been saying that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're all episode titles.
Yeah, that last one is just like, okay, you're just trolling us now.
Yeah.
So that is officially premiering, 2-episode premiere September 18th on Disney Plus at that point. So we got that. We also got an update on Ironheart. This is the new kind of logo for it, coming next year. That's all they did. They weren't going to say anything. It'll just release next year. And so I don't know if reshoots have started on it, but they said they would be doing a number of reshoots.
They had done some already, but maybe they're doing more, or maybe I'm mistaken. I'll tell you, the logo, the original logo was pretty plain. Mm-hmm. This one it's not great. Like the colors are weird to me. Like when I pulled it up on my actual screen when I saw it the first time, not looking through the preview window and stuff, it just seemed. I don't know. It seemed. I don't know how. There's no nice way to put it. I don't like it. I'll just say I don't like it.
Yeah, it's not doing much for me. they're all the rumor mill has been going on that they have been trying to delay this for Mr. Snell's favorite movie. He says is a fake movie at this point to come close to or start leading toward the Armor Wars movie if
Sure.
it still exists. That's besides extensive reshoots for that.
Sure, it does. It exists. Real movie.
And then we get, what Brent and I and many others have been wondering and seeing about more information about Daredevil, Born Again. So this is the new logo, which is great.
Significantly better than the Ironheart logo we just saw.
Significantly better.
I actually do like the regular like sideways Daredevil font the best. But I saw this and I thought, okay, that's a cool logo. I like that. Like that works for me. And I really love the Marvel Television logo right there above it too.
Marvel, and I love the city, underneath it at that point. Charlie Cox confirmed to TV Line on Tuesday that 9 episodes were filmed. So we heard about 18 episodes at that point. I think all of us, when we heard that, I was like, yeah, I'm not buying that's going to really stick at that point. So 9 episodes here. We get another 9 episodes for season 2, which we're all expecting at that point.
I don't care what they call it. I'm hoping for the 18 episode total. I don't care if that's 3 seasons of 6 or 4 seasons of whatever. Like, just give me, I'll take all the Daredevil I can get.
Yep. So, but I'm going to play this video from Charlie Cox revealing about where production stands on this.
Don't hear it, but I can tell you what it said because I saw this. So basically, what Charlie Cox is saying at this point is they wrapped up filming. At first, he says a month ago, and then he says like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So the production, as far as the actual photography, is finished.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's still some effects and things like that need to go, but it's exciting to hear that. And in my opinion, we don't have that long of a wait, till I know some people are like, oh my God, it's all the way till 2025. We didn't really expect it this year, most of us anyway. And I saw March of 2025 and I thought, oh, it's less than a year away. That's awesome. So I guess it's all on how you look at things.
Yep. March of 2025 at that point, 9 episodes for the first season. Again, this is going to be a great thing that we're going to get, some. I've always said that they're based on everything they've done. They are leaning back into that. They're going to try to make as much canon of the original show from Netflix into the MCU.
Yeah, and well, I think if you've listened to this show more than a couple episodes, you know how big a fan we both are of that original show.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, that is where the binging days of you and Ray on Fans Without Borders.
Yes.
God, I'm sorry, but trying to keep up at that point, say I gotta be ready for Brent and Ray to talk about this.
Yeah, well, it was a challenge, and I am thankful that this one is not likely to have a binge drop. I guess it's possible. They just did it with Echo, but
I don't think
likely.
I think they want this one to be a nice discussion piece every single week. So we appreciate that. So those are the upfronts. And the next little bit of news, a little bit of Fantastic Four casting update. Natasha Lyonne is the latest person to join Fantastic Four. Coming in an untitled role, she's joining Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Eben Moss-Baccarin in the cast at that point. Julia Gardner is also on board to play the Silver Surfer, while Paul Walter Hauser, John Malkovich, and Ralph Ineson are also on board in unnamed roles. WandaVision Helmer Matt Shackman is directing the movie based off the script of Rick Pearson, Josh Friedman, Jeff Kaplan, and Ian Springer. Production is set to begin this summer, with the movie set to premiere July 25th, 2025. Marvel had no comment plot details, and her character is being kept under wraps. She has been on a great role lately, gotten to even bigger acclaim recently with the show Poker Face. Which
great show, by the way.
I've heard very good things. It is on the to-do list. Prior to Poker Face, she was in another acclaimed Netflix series, Russian Doll.
First season was good. I still haven't gotten to the second season.
Yep. 2024 marked the release of a critically acclaimed Netflix comedy special, Jacqueline Novak, Get on Your Knees. Next up, she's in Taika Waititi's theatrical adaptation of Kazuo Ishiguro's New York Times best-selling novel, Clara, amongst others. So here's my call for what I think she might be. I think she's Alicia Masters.
I will admit that was my first thought, but it's it's not.
However,
thought.
my strike against that is that I believe also representation matters, and I believe they should get an actress who is blind.
I agree with that, and that's part of why I ultimately am not. I mean, we say that with just talking about Charlie Cox's Daredevil, but as they continue to push towards that, I would prefer them to get a blind actress. Yes. I thought of Alicia Masters, but I've come to another conclusion for my prediction. And
okay, go for it.
I could mispronounce it. Lyja, I think, or
yeah,
which
the Skrull.
The Skrull who was married to Johnny for a while, or at least in a relationship with Johnny for a while. I think that would be a fun role for her to play as well. So that is ultimately
a nice connection to
my
unfortunately
prediction.
Secret Invasion. I like it.
I mean, sure, but Skrulls go so much more than just that. It's fine. So I mean, we can accept, and we know that there are other Skrulls around besides just I can never even remember the name. Garrick? No, whatever. The Secret Invasion people.
Gaia.
So regardless, that is my prediction for it. But either way, I think she is great. I like her and everything I've seen her in. So this was exciting news.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Again, we got a lot of people getting cast unofficially.
If she's just the voice, I say just. If she's the voice of Herbie, she's got an awesome voice. Like, I love her voice, so that'll be cool.
I could have sworn, and again, this could be kind of, I thought I heard or something like that. I could have sworn rumor mill was going around that they were trying to get Herbie as a female comedian.
I've seen that said. I've seen
I can't
that
find
said.
it, yeah.
Phase Zero mentioned that in a a throwaway comment weeks ago, but I want to say it was Jamie Dirac who said that from on Phase Zero. But I have not actually seen like any of those rumors or articles or what. But if Jamie Dirac has heard that, that's good enough for me. So
yeah.
If that's the case, that would fit. So I mean, she's funny. It would fit.
It would give it a little sassiness to Herbie at that point.
Yes, which. Yeah,
yep.
I like the sound of that.
Yep. So let's see exactly what happens as we start towards, because again, filming is supposedly starting to commence this summer, and summer's just around the corner, Brent.
It needs to start tomorrow, considering how soon it's allegedly coming out.
For both of us, Brent, and personally. So.
Yep.
All right, so that's all the news that's fit to talk about this week. Let's take our final ad break before we get into listener feedback, fact or fiction, and comic book clubs. Listeners, as you know, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. You don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give you that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, Brent. As always, you put out the Spidey signal. What questions we got this week from the listeners?
Just one this week that I saw. Forgive me if I missed it. Sorry if I did. Send it to me again. But Omari said, do you like when characters change or upgrade suits in between films, or do you prefer they keep with the same look? For example, I think Daredevil provided a good in-show explanation for why Matt needed to upgrade after his fight with Nobu.
Again, Daredevil seemed very organic at that point. Even in X-Men 97, it made sense at that point. I'm not against it. I would like it as just to feel organic and necessary, not just because we need it. Based on what we have seen for Captain America: Brave New World, I am not happy with the change of Sam Wilson Captain America. I adore the comic accurate one we got at the end of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That is my Sam Wilson Captain America. I'm okay with subtle changes, but that's like, man, we really took a big step backwards. Again, that's just on a first look. As always, I reserve judgment until I see a trailer, things like that, but just on the first look.
Man, we had very different reactions to that.
I really love that costume that Sam Wilson got.
I agree. The Falcon and Winter Soldier costume is better. I agree. Like that, at least from what we've seen. I liked the costume that has basically leaked through McDonald's toys or whatever that we have seen of Sam's updated costume. I like it. I need to see more of it before I can definitively say like which one I like more. You said the X-Men 97 costume change made sense. Why?
I just think that they were in a place where they didn't have any costumes at that point since they were going to Muir Island, and those were the costumes available.
I mean, I think they probably had the costumes they had with them
Well,
already.
again, they've been
but-
fighting in them, and they just got through a battle, so they kind of want to change, and that's what's available.
Maybe.
That's my headcanon.
For me, it's they put on different costumes to give us a look at different costumes. And you know what? To answer Omari's question, sometimes that's enough. Now, that said, there are times when this is so, I don't know, it's not fair of me. There are times I like it more than others. I enjoy the first let's talk about just Captain America, right?
Okay.
I enjoy his costume in the first Avenger movie, but in the Avengers, I'm not a fan of that costume nearly as much. Like that's my least favorite costume he has in the entire MCU. And so that switch, which officially was between projects and I mean, you can make an argument for out of nowhere, not nearly as cool. But his next appearance, the Winter Soldier costume, that switch made a lot of again, they don't really give us a reason. That's just his uniform. And that's one of his best costumes in the MCU. There's no true in-story reason given to us. We can infer it, but it's not given to us. His costume he wears in Age of Ultron and Civil War, which is pretty much identical, that's actually my favorite costume of his through them all. But again, it's changed for Endgame. I like the Endgame one quite a bit. And of course, Infinity War is totally different. Like his changes a ton, and they don't always give us reasons. I don't need them when they can work it into the story in an organic way, like he said, the Daredevil Naboo thing where Naboo jacks up his costume and he doesn't have the armor to begin with. I think that works really well. When there is an organic reason to do it, great. You know, like in the Winter Soldier when he goes back to his original costume because he just needs a costume, and that's the one he knew where it was. If there's not, and they're just changing it up to give us a new costume, man, I don't care. I really, at this point, that's so the Flash did it every season. He'd stick with the same costume for a season. Arrow did it every season. He'd have it for a season, and at some point it would switch, maybe subtle tweaks. That's just how it works. Okay, Supergirl took like 4 or 5 seasons before her costume changed.
Hey, but she got Domino masked with Arrow, so.
Yes, he did get a Domino mask in season 2, episode 9. But
just flex those muscles.
It's one of my favorite episodes. But regardless, overall, I don't really care. I guess give me the choice. Sure, make it organic in the story. But I like seeing the different costumes. It's fun to see the different costumes.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Come on. Even if I don't like it at that point, guess what? I still have the other costumes I can always go back to.
I mean, I like Wolverine's yellow costume the best. I think it's awesome we got to see the brown costume, the brown and tan costume in X-Men 97.
Yep, I agree with that. So, all right. So thank you, Amari, for sending in that question. We appreciate it. And Fact or Fiction from last week. So based off the follow from episode 8, we will see in season 2. I should have been episode 9. So episode 9, we will see season 2 do an episode adapting the origin miniseries from the comics. 80% at fact, 20% at fiction. Number 2, due to the action and the consequence of Professor Xavier, we will see Onslaught in the future. 91% at fact, 9% at fiction. And number 3, in an upcoming season of X-Men 97, we will see a member of the X-Men join Apocalypse as a new Horseman. 86% at fact, 14% at fiction. Wonder how those people would have felt voting after they saw the episode. So,
Well, it's a good thing you got that in there first.
I did. I put that out there. So, all right, Brent, your turn this week. What you got?
They all are X-Men related. I decided with the
Surprise,
finale,
surprise.
I'm going straight X-Men on this time. Not that there won't be other X-Men ones in the future, but the majority of the X-Men will go back to their main costumes we have seen on the show within the first half of season 2.
So say that one more time.
I had this written down before Amara's question. I want that on the record. The majority of the X-Men will go back to their main costumes that we have seen on the show within the first half of season 2. So Wolverine's going back to the yellow in the first half of season 2. Cyclops is going back to, well, I guess it's still yellow and blue, but the leg belt costume.
Yeah, I could see that. I think some of them will maintain some either subtle differences and things like that. But yeah, for the most part.
I don't think, for the record, I don't think Storm will. I think she's
Storm
keeping
will
the
stay.
new one. Next up, X-Men Season 2. X-Men 97 Season 2 will premiere before June 2026.
Yeah, I'd say yes. Before June
Basically,
2026. Yeah.
I'm basically saying within 2 years it's starting.
Yeah.
I think that's the absolute limit that we're gonna have to wait.
I'll go with that. I'll say fact.
And then finally,
Are you
Gambit.
fact?
I'm sorry. Yes, fact. Gambit will not be the only casualty from Genosha to become a Horseman of Apocalypse.
Now define casualty.
I mean, technically, a casualty is somebody hurt, injured, killed by the event. But what the spirit of what I really meant, I could change it. Will not be the only fatality from Genosha to become.
I wasn't trying to force you that. I'm fine with casualty. I just was curious on your understanding of it. I could see that. Yeah, I'd be a fact on that because there's a lot he could use from that one event. Because I mean, how many you can do a lot of damage with all the ones. I mean, you could see Banshee come back as a horseman.
Yeah, absolutely. Banshee could be one of them. I think it's possible Madeline Pryor could come back as one of them. Mm-hmm. I would not rule her out either. And there were just so many characters who were there that I don't necessarily think
Leech. Let's make Leech come back. Poor baby Leech.
Oh, what?
Pestilence.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, that's
Pestilence.
Oh, that's cold. And then he has to fight Magneto. Oh, that's cold. You're a dark person.
Yeah, don't be afraid, Magneto. Yeah, how about this, Magneto?
That is such a good idea. I don't necessarily think all four of them.
I thought about that as soon as I was like, man, what about bringing Leech back?
That is such a good idea, though. You demented person.
You magnificent fool! You did it, didn't you?
But yes, so I am a fact. I think Gambit's coming, but I think at least one more will as well.
Okay. Yep. So, all right. Well, I'll put those out there along with Mr. Hines's on Sunday afternoon. Let your voices be heard, and let us conclude the original of our comic book club at that point. Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe. So, number 4. What'd you think about this conclusion?
I kind of wishing Punisher would have lasted a little longer.
Yeah, that was
But at the same time, it's like he did away with Spider-Man. He can do away with the regular human, you know.
Yeah.
And man, what he did, like setting up the Puppet Master that way, that's cold, man. That's cold. But
yeah, it was. He made a puppet of the Puppet Master.
Yes, absolutely. And he pulled some stuff there. Like it looks like he had the Puppet Master make a Galactus puppet,
yep,
or whatever, and then uses that to take out like Gladiator, Silver Surfer. Like, impressive. Like, Puppet Master could be one of the most dangerous. I've never thought of that before.
Yeah, especially when you're wondering why are they all lining up at the top committing suicide. It's the Puppet Master.
Yes. Like, it took me a minute to realize
it's very subtle. They don't. You have to pay. You just have to think about it. If you don't know who the Puppet Master is, you still have no freaking clue why they're killing themselves. And then you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I know what the Puppet Master is doing.
Took me a bit to realize that's what I was seeing right there. It's like,
very
I don't
subtle.
understand this, and it's like I don't get it. But sure enough, they showed Daredevil and so many others just jump into their deaths.
Yeah, and then you get to the next one. You got him apparently has taken out Gladiator, Thanos, Silver Surfer, Nova. Galactus.
Man,
he's done some damage.
He's done some damage, and finally Taskmaster catches up.
Yeah, Taskmaster, I mean, it was a fight, but, it was like, okay. But then you get freaking Man-Thing.
That was cool.
That was the coolest thing. Like, the fight itself between Taskmaster and Deadpool is like, I'm not feeling this one. And then Man-Thing is out of nowhere. I was like, oh, yes.
I did not expect Man-Thing.
I did not either.
That was fun.
That was fun, but then for whatever reason, Man-Thing basically explodes on himself.
Yep.
And creates a portal that Deadpool goes through. And
to the real world, I guess.
Yep, he ends up at Marvel Studios with Cullen Bunn and the rest of the team writing it. And that's where we end the first one. So as Brent and I said, we are going to read the next issue just because it was short enough. We were entertained enough, so we're gonna read Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe again, starting next week. So again, I have not read that either.
No, neither have I. Is that what it's called? Does Deadpool kills?
Yep,
Looks
the
like
Marvel.
5 issues, 2017.
Yep, that should be it.
Perfect.
All right, so we will read that as our next one, and then we will get to you listeners. Will think of our theme, and then you can guys vote on that one. So, but yeah, it's enjoyable. It was okay. It's definitely you get. I think I had a little more higher expectations for it overall, but it was entertaining to keep my interest to try out the sequel.
Yeah, I liked it enough that I'm happy to read the sequel. It's not something that I see me going back to anytime soon. Let's put it that way.
It's just read if you like a fun Deadpool. I could recommend better Deadpool stories, but this one isn't bad as a quickie. So, but all right, Brent. Long episode, but as always, stay tuned for the post credits. There is something that we do also need to discuss in post credits today, so make sure you stick around for that. But Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Brentak Prime on the socials. So reach out and forgive me if I don't respond right away, but I will respond.
Yes, he will be there. We're both very busy right now, but we will reach back out.
Education workers at the end of the school year.
Yes, it's a stressful time, but it's also we know this time shall pass too. So
yes,
we will earn our break. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at Marvel 8 Podcast. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback. Email, ask questions. As we said, our DMs are open. We may be a little delayed getting back to you, but we will get back to you nonetheless. Continue to rate, review Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcast. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for all your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. Use that code MARVEL, GUA, at checkout to get $2 off every single order. We want to thank everyone listening live on YouTube. We want to thank our listeners listening wherever they are on audio and all podcasts. Thank you all for joining us. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, Brent, post-credits discussion tonight, along with all the upfront, some official news has come. Rumor mill has been swirling about this series. We didn't know necessarily, could it be true, would it be true, but we can. The deadline at the upfront can officially confirm Spider-Man Noir is not only happening at Amazon series, the live-action series will be starring Nicolas Cage as the title character. So taking on his role he has voiced in the Spider-Verse movies with Sony, he is now getting to play Spider-Man Noir in live action. Warms my heart. Absolutely warms my heart.
I was really excited at this. Caveat: Sony, right? Like we know they just canned Silk, and one of the Silk's not happening. They canned Silk, and one of the things they wanted to do
apparently was, three times.
They wanted Silk, not as much Silk in the Silk TV show. So, all right, questioning some of it.
Stop it, Sony. Stop it.
But they are developing this with the Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, people behind these Spider-Verse movies, and I'm a little conflicted on if I want like the dark and serious take of more of the comic books, or if I want, and maybe it still could be, maybe these two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. If I want, is this a live action version of the Spider-Man we saw in the Spider-Verse movies? I don't know. Either way, I love that Nicolas Cage is doing it. I think it's going to be the potential here is to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the series, which has been in development since last year, comes from Oren Ezel, who's from The Lost City, 22 Jump Street, and Steve Lightfoot, Marvel's The Punisher, and Shattered Arm, who will serve as co-showrunners and executive producers. Emmy-winning director Harry Bradbeer from Fleabag and Killing Eve is set to produce. Is set to direct and executive produce the first 2 episodes. So Noir tells the story of an aging and down on his luck private investigator, played by Nicolas Cage, in 1930s New York, who is forced to grapple with his past life in the city's one and only superhero. Is that expanding the Marvel Universe with Noir is is a uniquely special opportunity, and we are honored to bring that series to a global Prime Video customer, said Vernon Sanders, head of television for Amazon MGM Studios. The extremely talented Nicolas Cage is the ideal choice for our new superhero. The accomplished producing team of Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, Amy Pascal, and the incredible team at Sony is dedicated to expanding this franchise at the most authentic way. We are absolutely thrilled to have Nicolas Cage starring in the series. No one else could have such pathos, pain, and heart to the singular character, said Catherine Pope, president of Sony Pictures Television Studios. Along with our brilliant producers and partners at Amazon MGM Studios and Prime Video, we couldn't ask for a better team to explore the reimagining of such an iconic character in Sony's universe of Marvel characters. Sorry, just can't stand that. But the interesting thing is with this, like you said, what kind of take on the character are we getting? Are we going to get a more serious take, or are we going to get kind of the serious mixed with the kind of goofiness? And again, Spider-Man Noir, this isn't a Peter Parker. This is a completely separate version of a character in the 1930s in black and white, but it's not Peter Parker.
I thought he was.
I could be mistaken.
Pretty sure he is.
Okay, then he is. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of another one at that point. Brent's checking on me.
Yeah, I mean, you're making. Yeah, he's Peter Parker.
Okay, Peter Parker.
Making me
Okay.
question myself.
Maybe it was no. Maybe you know where I'm getting that from. They didn't want it to be the Spider-Man Noir, at least in the rumor mill. This wasn't going to be a Peter Parker Spider-Man. I think that's where I'm getting it from.
And maybe that's still the case.
Yeah, maybe that's still the case at that
In
point.
which case, he wouldn't be the Spider-Verse version because that was a Peter Parker.
Yep. So there we go. In the comics, yes, I was getting confused with what the rumor mill started. So we don't know yet. But I'm agreeing. Hero Made podcast is saying very underrated book. I feel we need a good pick me up for Madam Web. Yes, we do. Spider-Man comics have been kind of meh of late, so I'm hoping something like this draws it in, gets back in. Very serious book. Uses revolver. Villain was Goblin. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Do you think that are they going to do black and white? Or are they going to do this in color?
As someone that's not a big fan of black and white, I kind of hope so. because that's what the character is. Like, that's what fits the character.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how the character was created, as black and white. And so and it wasn't created as black and white because that was the only option they had at the time.
Yeah.
It was like, that was a stylistic choice. So I do kind of hope they mimic that. And he was even black and white in Spider-Verse. Like, I hope they mimic that.
Yeah, I think so, and I hope Nicolas Cage. I think he's going to be great at internal monologue. A lot of his characters that he's done throughout his career has been internal monologue. He's great at it. This is a character that fits that very well. It's going to be interesting. Looking forward to it. I hope this does pan out. And with already attachment of Nicolas Cage to it, he's very committed to these kind of parts and the character itself. So hey, I'm glad. I'm very sorry to see Silk not make it. I think 3 treatments and you wanted less Silk. Do you understand what you're doing, Sony? This is what worries me about projects that I get kind of excited for, but then see Sony attached to it.
Right.
Outside of animation. So, but again, the potential of this, great. Looking forward to it. So that's our post-credits, ladies and gentlemen. We will see you all next week for a regular episode of Marvel Alliance with no show, but hopefully some good news. So we will
just a little bit of, like, if they could have held some of this for next week, but it's all right. It's all right.
That's all right. We'll
find
bring it
something
to you.
to talk about.
We will. We always do. So we'll see y'all. Have a good weekend. We'll see y'all next week. Bye-bye.